Today we are back talking again about the M416 Autumn Equinox with our endgame Fortress Warfare Unlimited Heals build. If you missed it, I've covered the build basics in phase 1. I'll leave a link to the video there. It's going to go over the whole build and all the details you need to know. But now I have an update for the endgame build. So I can fight bosses and just ignore their mechanics now with this build. I can just sit there and tank everything they throw at me basically in the endgame hard mode phase bosses. I don't even need to use heals anymore with this build. It does it all for me. Just look at the heals, it's actually crazy. So I'll cover the new weapon calibration I've got on the M416, and I'll go over the gear again and the mods I've got, and then I'll show you guys it in action. But if you guys want the full details on Fortress Warfare, go watch the other video. To give you guys a quick summary though, the M416 gives you heals when you're in Fortress Warfare, and it procs Fortress Warfare after 7 bullets. Fortress Warfare drops on the ground, and when we're in it, we can heal. Also gives us attack and defense bonuses. So our aim with this build is to keep the Fortress Warfare up as long as we can. So that's what we've aimed to do with this build. Aim with the gun is obviously to keep the Fortress Warfare up as much as we can so that we can keep our HP healing and our HP above 75% for the extra weapon damage. So what I've done is actually put on my gun Vanguard styled calibration on. So after reloading from empty, the next shot is guaranteed to trigger keyword effect, damage -16, and then crit rate, crit rate, crit rate. So what this means is that when we reload our gun, we get another Fortress Warfare. And so we're basically capitalizing how much the Fortress Warfare pops to keep our heals up and keep us surviving in above 75 health. Because obviously with this build we're running the Bastile set as well, and so with the Bastile set, when we stay crouched and immobile, we enter Bastile state, which grants plus 40 weapon damage, and we've got 4-piece, so we get armor as well. So we want to sit still and we want to just focus our fire, and we're tanking a lot is the idea of this build. So we've got the Bastile set, we've got the Blackstone top steel for the cold and heat resist. We're using the leather boots. I've found these are the most effective. They recover 2.5% HP per second while in Fortress Warfare, and the effect doubles when HP is below 50. So you get some really good heals when these work. The reason I'm using these is because when I've used tactical combo boots, automatically refill bullet and increase fire rate, I've actually got a damage decrease from this, and I didn't get the heals to work. And the same with the cowboy boots, the heals don't work with those. So we want to maximize the potential of the heals with this build, and that's the idea of it. So I'm sticking with the heals. I was trying to lean off and go DPS, but it really is a tank build, and we can just sit there and tank as much as we want, and it's pretty satisfying, and still the damage output's pretty good now. And now the mods we're using again is Portable Territory. This has been more effective for me than the other Fortress Warfare mod, and I've got crit damage plus 15 and weapon damage on this, so it's not too bad. I've found this is actually more effective than Durable Territory because I can't seem to keep it up that often with Durable Territory because you still have to move a bit. And so when you move out of your Fortress Warfare, you struggle to keep the Fortress Warfares popping onto people. So that's why I've used that on the gun. And it actually means we can move around and run around and still have the heals for 2 seconds after we leave the Fortress Warfare. So it's really effective. We're running it with the Bingo Bullseye, which I haven't upgraded yet. Bullseye adds vulnerability. And the reason for that is because in our Cradle perks, we obviously have this here. So while in Fortress Warfare or Fast Gunner status, weapons damage plus 40%. And weak spot damage to the bullseye plus 20. So when we switch to our bingo, we can put weak spot on and we get increases to damage as well. So that's why we've got that. On our headpiece, we have momentum up, and this gives us fire rate plus 10 for the first 50% of the mag and weapon damage plus 30 for the next 50%. And again, we got crit rate and weapon damage on that. And that is not even enhanced. Holy, I've been slacking. Don't judge. So this is really good because we get that weapon damage for the Bastile state, and just for the weapon For Fortress Warfare, you know, it's all weapon damage mostly. So that's what we want to focus on. I haven't really got anything else that's, you know, going to help with this build, because we don't want to use anything like mag expansions, for instance, because we want the mag to run out so we can proc our Fortress Warfare now. On the mask, we are running Unbreakable Violent, and that gives us Fortress Warfare range -30, but while in Fortress Warfare state, we get attack plus 15. Again, we've got crit damage on that. Next up on the gloves, we are running weapon damage plus 15. We're running munitions amplifier with weapon damage plus 15 and crit damage plus 12. And on the boots, we are running covered advanced violent, taking no damage within 4 seconds, grants plus 20 melee and weapon damage for 30 seconds, so the effect lasts for such a long time. And we've got crit damage on that. As our bonus on the chest, we have head-on conflict, so when we have enemies within 7 meters, we get a 10% damage reduction, so we're getting tanky again, and we get that plus 15 crit damage. On our legs, we are running bullet siphon, so weapon damage plus 5% every 5 bullets consumed. In the magazine, grants plus 4 weapon damage, capped at 20. So we're basically getting that extra weapon damage progressively through the reload. And again, we've got crit damage on that. So, for our cradle perks, we have anti-void. So when we're using rifles, we get damage plus 15. We also have deviant energy defense. So when we get our deviant out, we get plus 30. We get a shield equal to 30% of max HP. So we become tankier, and weapon damage reduction and status damage reduction. So again, just making ourselves extra tanky is key here. We have tactical combo, so when we switch weapons or reload, we get plus 25% weapon damage after switching or reloading. So we also have Deviation Master. While Deviation is present, damage against the Great Ones and Elites is up 25%, so that one's big for fighting bosses. We have Side by Side, because we've been fighting in a group a lot, but if you're solo, obviously use Lone Walker. We also have Steady Hand, and this is a really big one for this build. While in Fortress Warfare or Fast Gunner status, weak spot damage plus 40% and weak spot damage to the bullseye plus 20. So if you're running in a group and somebody else has weak spot damage, it's going to be a huge damage boost for you. But you've also got the bingo to switch this on so you can get the bullseye on the target, and then it's going to take a whole lot of extra damage. So that's why I start with the bingo in this build. Now, finally, we have Fortress Link, so Fortress Warfare range plus 50 with an additional damage boost of 5% after activating Fortress Warfare for 5 seconds. It will appear within 10 meters of a non-hostile's location. So you can actually boost your friends here, and your Fortress Warfare will go to your friends and give them damage boost. So it's really becoming that damage sort of heals, tank, sort of support role at that point. And if no one else is there, it comes back to you as well. So you'll find you'll chain link Fortress Warfares. And finally, Bounty Hunter. So hitting a marked target grants plus 5% weapon damage for 8 seconds. Stacks up to 6. Switching weapons removes half the stacks. So when we mark the target, we get this buff as well. So really important to run it with the Fortress Warfare. And that's why we've done it, because there's nothing really else that'll work with the Fortress Warfare build, sadly. So we sort of have to capitalize on the marking of the targets to run with it. As much as I'd want to run Black Panther with it, you really have to run it with the bingo. It's the game kind of forces it. And obviously for our deviant, we are running the slime. So that's the build. Now let's test it. So when you're running this build, we start with a shot from the bingo, and then we switch back to the M416. And you can see there the DPS is kind of chunky for what this is, considering we haven't gone full DPS and we're trying to keep the heals. So you can really output a decent amount while still maintaining really tough armor and heals. Look at those Fortress Warfares popping. I do think the calibration attribute might be a bit bugged at the moment, because I have noticed sometimes they don't pop after the reload and first bullet. So do take it with a grain of salt. This might not be working the way it's intended, but the idea is that this calibration attribute should be the effective one for this when it works. I'm probably going to try some other calibration attributes just to test, because it seems pretty inconsistent, but with the lag on the servers, it's really hard to tell if it's working the way it's intended. Either way, the build still stands strong. So now I'll show you it in a boss fight. In hard mode, Secret Servitor, I've found this has been really effective. What I do is I get comfortable in my position, hit with my bingo, and then we can unleash the beast once we've got weak spot on. So now we can do pretty substantial damage. The only thing we need to dodge is obviously this red circles. Apart from that, we can tank the rest of it, as you guys will see in this fight. So if you pay attention to the heals here, we can just tank through this rain and sit there, and you can see the heals are countering it to an extent. And this is without our slime down. So it's very substantial heals. You can see that we've kept it on for a long time, so I actually think the mod is working in this circumstance. And the heals just keep on going, and that's why the leather boots are so important for this build, because without them the heals are not substantial enough. And so this way, with the Fortress Warfare, it gives us armor, and the Bastile set gives us more armor, and we get DPS increase from being in Bastile state and being in the Fortress Warfare. So it's just such a solid tanky build. I feel like it's in a really solid state at the moment. Not viable for PvP obviously, but for PvE here it's great. We can just sit here, and especially for leveling, you can just have infinite heals. I haven't even had to spend any of my activators while leveling up, so it saves you a lot of money. This is going to be my new leveling build, that's for sure. The only things you need to dodge are the red circles on the ground. The rest of it, we can just face tank. So, I'm really happy with how this build's turning out. I am going to experiment with some other calibration attributes on the gun. But overall, if you guys do want a heals build, just so you can, you know, have an easy way to level up without worrying about making activators and spending on them all the time, this is going to be great, because I'm going to save all my activators for PvP from now on. So we can just tank it to the face, because of the Bastile armor giving us that extra shield. We're just so tanky, and we just push through this rain. Obviously the slime does help as well, so we use it when we've got it. But it's the slime and the Fortress Warfare healing us here that allows us to just tank all the debuffs and basically ignore the boss's mechanics. So it's pretty wild. This has been my favorite build from the new season, because I just like using things left of center, and I feel like Fortress Warfare has been slept on for the longest time, and it's finally viable to run. So if you guys have any modifications to this that you change that work better, or you find that I could change, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys are legends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more Once Human.